The relationship between Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson had long been viewed as one of Hollywood's most private and stable romances. For years, the Coldplay frontman and the acclaimed actress managed to stay largely out of the spotlight, avoiding public drama, social media exposure, and headline-grabbing controversies. Yet behind that carefully guarded silence, a much more complex story was quietly unfolding, one that has only now begun to surface. According to investigative reports based on multiple sources close to both parties, the breakup between Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson was not sudden. In fact, signs of emotional distance had been present for months, long before rumors began circulating publicly. Since late last year, the couple had reportedly been spending significantly less time together, both physically and emotionally, as their professional lives pulled them in increasingly different directions. Chris Martin has been immersed in Coldplay's global tour schedule, one of the most demanding in the music industry. The tour required constant travel, long periods away from home, and intense physical and emotional commitment. At the same time, Dakota Johnson was deeply engaged in several major film projects, often shooting overseas with little flexibility in her schedule. While long-distance relationships are not uncommon in Hollywood, sources indicate that the strain eventually became impossible to ignore. However, insiders stress that distance alone was not the core issue. A deeper investigation reveals that the true fracture lay in a growing mismatch of long-term priorities. Those close to the couple say that Chris Martin has reached a stage in life where stability and emotional balance have become central. After years of global fame, relentless touring, and a highly publicized divorce from Gwyneth Paltrow, he is said to value peace, routine, and personal grounding more than ever before. Dakota Johnson, by contrast, is reportedly in a phase of expansion. Her career momentum has been accelerating, with increasingly ambitious roles and international collaborations. Sources familiar with her perspective say she did not want to slow down or reshape her professional trajectory to fit into a lifestyle that felt more restrained. This fundamental difference, while handled privately and respectfully, created a quiet but widening gap. One of the most sensitive points uncovered during this investigation involves the question of long-term commitment. Despite being together for several years, discussions about the future reportedly remained unresolved. Chris Martin's cautious approach to major commitments is believed to stem from his past experiences, particularly the emotional impact of his divorce and the public scrutiny that followed. Those experiences, sources say, made him more guarded when it came to defining the next steps in a relationship. Dakota Johnson, on the other hand, is described as someone who values clarity and emotional certainty. While she did not issue ultimatums, sources indicate that she sought a clearer understanding of where the relationship was heading. When that clarity failed to materialize, emotional distance slowly replaced intimacy. The turning point, according to individuals with knowledge of the situation, came during a private conversation held weeks before news of the breakup began to leak. The discussion was described as calm, honest, and deeply emotional. There were no raised voices, no accusations, and no involvement of third parties. Instead, both sides reportedly acknowledged a difficult truth: continuing the relationship would require one of them to compromise core personal goals. Notably, investigators found no evidence of infidelity, scandal, or explosive conflict. On the contrary, the breakup appears to have been the result of mutual recognition rather than betrayal. This detail sharply contrasts with many high-profile Hollywood separations and has surprised fans who expected a more dramatic revelation. Following the separation, Chris Martin's public behavior drew renewed attention. During recent Coldplay performances, he made several reflective comments about change, growth, and letting go. Though he never referenced Dakota Johnson directly, many fans interpreted his words as subtle expressions of his personal emotional state. Dakota Johnson, meanwhile, maintained her professional composure. She continued attending industry events, promoting her projects, and avoiding public discussion of her private life. This restraint aligns with her long-standing approach to fame and personal boundaries. The findings of this investigation point to a clear conclusion: the relationship between Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson did not end because of a single dramatic incident. Instead, it dissolved under the weight of diverging life paths, evolving priorities, and unaligned visions of the future. Love and respect remained, but alignment did not. For fans, the truth has been both shocking and sobering. What appeared to be a quietly strong relationship was, in reality, navigating challenges that never reached the public eye. For those close to the couple, however, the breakup is seen as a thoughtful and inevitable decision, one made with maturity rather than emotion. As Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson move forward separately, they do so without public conflict, official statements, or attempts to shape a narrative. Their silence speaks volumes. It marks the end of a relationship that was defined not by spectacle, but by privacy, and ultimately, by an honest acceptance that sometimes, even strong connections must come to an end. Further examination of their inner circle reveals that the breakup also reshaped how both Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson are redefining their personal boundaries. Sources indicate that after the private decision to separate, both parties agreed on one crucial principle: no public narrative manipulation. Neither wanted the relationship's end to become a spectacle fueled by anonymous leaks or exaggerated headlines. This mutual understanding is believed to be the reason why no official statement was ever released, allowing speculation to circulate while facts remained guarded. Industry insiders note that Chris Martin, in particular, has become increasingly protective of his emotional space. Those close to the musician describe him as reflective and introspective in recent months, spending more time away from social environments when not on tour. His creative output, both musically and verbally during live performances, reportedly reflects a period of internal reassessment. Lyrics improvised on stage, as well as spontaneous monologues about growth and impermanence, have not gone unnoticed by longtime fans. Meanwhile, Dakota Johnson is said to have consciously shifted her focus toward professional autonomy. Several individuals familiar with her mindset suggest that she views this transition not as a loss, but as a recalibration. The end of the relationship allowed her to fully commit to demanding projects without the emotional weight of unresolved personal questions. Her recent appearances have been described as composed and deliberate, signaling control rather than retreat. Investigative findings also suggest that close friends of the couple were aware of the evolving situation long before the public became suspicious. Invitations to joint gatherings reportedly decreased, and mutual friends began seeing Chris and Dakota separately rather than together. These subtle social shifts, while easy to miss, often signal deeper changes within long-term relationships, especially those shielded from public view. Another layer uncovered involves the contrasting rhythms of their lifestyles. Chris Martin's life is structured around cycles of intense global exposure followed by periods of withdrawal. Dakota Johnson's career, however, has moved into a phase of sustained momentum, requiring continuous presence in the industry. Sources suggest that these opposing rhythms made synchronization increasingly difficult, even when emotional connection remained. What stands out most in this investigation is the absence of resentment. Multiple sources emphasize that neither party left the relationship feeling wronged. Instead, there was a shared recognition that staying together would eventually breed frustration rather than fulfillment. This acknowledgement, though painful, reportedly strengthened mutual respect rather than diminishing it. Observers within the entertainment industry note that this type of breakup, quiet, deliberate, and emotionally contained, is rare among high-profile figures. In an era dominated by public statements and strategic storytelling, Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson's silence represents a conscious rejection of spectacle. Their decision to disengage privately reflects a maturity often absent in celebrity culture. Speculation has inevitably followed, particularly regarding potential new romantic interests. However, sources close to both individuals dismiss claims of immediate rebounds or secret relationships. Investigators found no evidence suggesting that the breakup was influenced by external romantic involvement. On the contrary, both appear focused on recalibrating their individual identities rather than replacing the relationship. As time progresses, industry analysts believe the long-term impact of the breakup will manifest subtly rather than explosively. Chris Martin's music may continue to reflect themes of impermanence and emotional honesty, while Dakota Johnson's career trajectory is expected to expand further into challenging and unconventional roles. Their paths, while separate, remain shaped by years of shared experience. For fans, the revelation of these deeper layers offers clarity rather than closure. The truth behind the breakup dismantles the illusion that privacy guarantees permanence. Instead, it underscores a more nuanced reality. Even deeply respectful relationships can reach a natural conclusion when growth demands different directions. Ultimately, the story of Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson is not one of scandal or betrayal, but of evolution. It highlights the complexities of balancing love, ambition, and personal healing under the weight of global visibility. Their separation, while quiet, serves as a powerful reminder that some endings are not failures, but necessary transitions. As both figures continue forward without public commentary, their silence remains intentional. It is not an absence of emotion, but a boundary. And within that boundary lies the final truth uncovered by this investigation. Sometimes, the most honest endings are the ones that unfold away from the spotlight. Sources with long-standing proximity to Chris Martin emphasize that the breakup also marked a deeper personal reset. After years of structuring his private life around maintaining emotional equilibrium, Chris reportedly reached a point where compromise began to feel like quiet self-erasure. While never framed as dissatisfaction with Dakota Johnson herself, insiders say he became increasingly aware that his emotional needs had shifted towards solitude, reflection, and a slower internal rhythm that conflicted with the pace of an expanding Hollywood career. Those same sources note that Chris's approach to relationships has been fundamentally shaped by past experiences. The lessons from his previous marriage were not about fear, but about caution. He became more deliberate, more conscious of emotional consequences, and more resistant to decisions that could not be fully aligned with his sense of inner stability. In this context, the relationship with Dakota was meaningful, genuine, and deeply respected, but not immune to that internal framework. Dakota Johnson's perspective, according to individuals close to her professional circle, was equally grounded in self-awareness. She is described as someone who understands momentum and timing, both creatively and personally. As her career opportunities multiplied, so did the emotional clarity about what she was unwilling to delay or dilute. Remaining in a relationship defined by uncertainty, even a loving one, no longer aligned with her sense of forward movement. Investigators also uncovered that this clarity did not arrive abruptly. Dakota is said to have spent months weighing her priorities, consulting trusted confidants, and reflecting on the long-term implications of staying versus letting go. The conclusion, while emotionally difficult, was not impulsive. It was calculated, intentional, and rooted in self-preservation rather than dissatisfaction. Friends of the former couple described their final phase together as respectful but subdued. There were fewer shared plans, fewer spontaneous reunions, and a noticeable shift in how they spoke about the future. Language that once implied continuity gradually became more present-focused. These subtle changes, often invisible to the public, signaled that the relationship was quietly approaching its conclusion. Industry observers point out that the way this breakup unfolded reveals much about the evolving culture of modern celebrity relationships. Unlike past eras dominated by public declarations and dramatic splits, this separation followed a different script, one driven by privacy, emotional accountability, and restraint. It reflects a broader shift among high-profile figures who are increasingly unwilling to perform their personal lives for public consumption. As rumors inevitably intensified, both Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson reportedly chose not to correct misinformation unless it crossed personal boundaries. This decision allowed speculation to run its course while preserving emotional distance from the media cycle. According to sources, silence was not avoidance, but strategy, a means of protecting something that once mattered deeply. In the weeks following the separation, subtle behavioral shifts reinforced this narrative. Chris Martin spent extended time away from public gatherings outside of professional commitments, prioritizing close family connections and personal routines. Dakota Johnson, meanwhile, immersed herself fully in work, using structure and creativity as stabilizing forces during transition. Despite public curiosity, there has been no attempt from either side to redefine the relationship retroactively. Neither has spoken negatively, nor attempted to claim emotional high ground. This absence of narrative control suggests a shared understanding that not all endings require explanation, especially when the truth is complex and deeply personal. Entertainment analysts suggest that the long-term legacy of the relationship may be felt more internally than externally. For Chris Martin, the experience reinforced the importance of emotional alignment over longevity. For Dakota Johnson, it reaffirmed the necessity of clarity over comfort. Both lessons, though painful, are seen as formative rather than damaging. Fans, meanwhile, remain divided between disappointment and admiration. While many mourn what they believed was an enduring partnership, others recognize the rare honesty behind choosing separation before resentment could take root. The investigative findings support the latter view. This was not a failure of love, but a recognition of its limits. Ultimately, the end of Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson's relationship reflects a broader truth about modern intimacy under public scrutiny. When two individuals grow in different directions, the most courageous choice is not always to stay, but to let go with dignity. Their story, stripped of rumor and examined closely, stands as a case study in quiet endings, ones that resist spectacle and prioritize authenticity. As both continue forward on separate paths, there is no indication of conflict, bitterness, or unresolved tension. What remains is mutual respect, private gratitude, and an understanding that some relationships are meant to shape us, not define us forever. And in that understanding lies the final, unspoken conclusion of this investigation. The most shocking truth was never the breakup itself, but how deliberately and humanely it was handled. Further scrutiny into the aftermath of the breakup reveals how deliberately both Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson have managed the transition. Sources indicate that, behind closed doors, there was a mutual agreement to preserve the integrity of what they shared rather than reduce it to a public narrative. This decision shaped every move that followed, from avoiding joint appearances to declining opportunities that could spark renewed speculation. Several industry insiders confirmed that Chris Martin's inner circle encouraged him to slow down emotionally rather than distract himself with immediate change. Instead of seeking novelty, he reportedly leaned into familiar structures, music, meditation, and time with his children. Those close to him described this period not as withdrawal, but as consolidation, a phase where reflection took priority over reinvention. Dakota Johnson's response followed a different but equally intentional path. Rather than retreat, she expanded. Colleagues say she became more decisive on set, more vocal creatively, and more selective about the roles she pursued. The separation, while painful, appeared to sharpen her focus rather than diminish it. In private conversations, she is said to have framed the experience as an inflection point rather than a setback. Investigative sources also note how both parties resisted pressure from publicists and advisors to issue clarifying statements. In an industry where silence often invites speculation, this restraint was a calculated risk. Yet those familiar with the decision-making process say it was rooted in a shared belief that explanation would oversimplify something inherently complex. Their silence, paradoxically, became the most accurate reflection of the truth. As weeks passed, subtle signs reinforced the nature of the breakup. There were no leaked messages, no anonymous accusations, and no competing narratives emerging from either side. This absence of contradiction suggests a rare alignment in how the ending was understood by both individuals. Each accepted responsibility for their own needs without assigning blame. Observers who have tracked Chris Martin's career over decades point out that this pattern mirrors a broader evolution in how he navigates personal change. Earlier chapters of his life were marked by highly public emotional expression. This chapter, by contrast, is defined by containment and quiet processing. The shift is notable, suggesting growth shaped by experience rather than avoidance. For Dakota Johnson, the breakup appears to have reinforced her long-standing insistence on autonomy. Friends describe her as emotionally grounded but uncompromising when it comes to self-direction. The decision to walk away from a relationship that no longer aligned with her trajectory is seen by those close to her as consistent, not reactive. Media analysts suggest that public fascination with this breakup stems precisely from what it lacks. There is no scandal to dissect, no villain to assign, and no dramatic confrontation to replay. Instead, the story resists sensational framing, forcing audiences to confront a less comfortable truth: that some relationships end not because something went wrong, but because something changed. This reality has prompted renewed discussion within entertainment circles about the sustainability of long-term relationships under constant visibility. The case of Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson highlights how even privacy cannot fully shield a relationship from the pressures of ambition, timing, and personal evolution. It also illustrates that success in one domain often complicates stability in another. As speculation about future romances continues to circulate online, sources close to both individuals caution against premature conclusions. Neither Chris nor Dakota is believed to be prioritizing romantic involvement in the immediate aftermath. Instead, both appear focused on recalibration, realigning their lives with values clarified through loss. What remains striking is the absence of regret expressed by those closest to the situation. While sadness is acknowledged, there is also a prevailing sense of inevitability. Several insiders describe the breakup as an outcome both parties sensed long before it occurred, even if neither was ready to confront it publicly. In the broader context of celebrity relationships, this separation stands apart as a study in emotional responsibility. It challenges the assumption that longevity equates to success and reframes endings as part of a natural life cycle rather than a public failure. For Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson, the conclusion of their relationship appears to have been guided by honesty rather than fear. As time moves forward, their individual narratives will continue to unfold independently. Music will carry traces of introspection, films will reflect expanded ambition, and public appearances will remain carefully measured. Yet the shared chapter they leave behind remains intact, preserved through discretion rather than disclosure. In the end, the most revealing outcome of this investigation is not the reason the relationship ended, but how it ended. With restraint, with mutual respect, and with a clear understanding that sometimes, the most authentic choice is to step away before love turns into obligation. That quiet decision, more than any rumor or headline, defines the true story behind the breakup of Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson.